Hello and welcome to Real Reviews. My name is Jameson Rabbit, and the man seated next to me once tried reversing the odometer on his dad's car by putting it in reverse.
I did.
His name is Mike Roth, by the way.
You know what that big bonehead move I did at the end is?
What's that?
Well, it fell off the little kickstand I got. It went right through the window. It was his favorite car.
Oh, my God.
My life is like a movie sometimes.
Yeah,
it really
is when you sit and think about it.
Yeah.
Oh, man, how amazing.
Crazy.
So this week we have 4 movies to bring to you on the marquee, and I'm going to jump right in with the first one I saw this week, sir. It is the directorial debut of a man who has written a ton of movies and television, Aaron Sorkin.
Oh.
From The West Wing and other things.
Okay.
The movie is Molly's Game, starring Jessica Chastain as Molly Bloom. This movie is based on a true story. She's a real person who has a real events happening to her. And Jessica Chastain as Molly, she was an Olympic-class skier who went on to run an ultra-exclusive high-stakes poker game that eventually was taken down by the FBI. And the movie is kind of, half of it is her in the current day of this time frame, dealing with the FBI investigation into her and getting ready for a court case, and half of it of her retelling the events that led to this. So it's a lot of back and forth between the two time periods. Molly is a girl who is smarter and talks faster than everyone in the room, and she knows it. She's kind of pretty vain, kind of headstrong, goes after what she wants, and it's part of her upbringing. Her father, played by Kevin Costner, pushed her. I mean, obviously, to be an Olympic athlete, you got to kind of be willing to go after something. And so she found a way, got this into this underground poker network, and then she found ways to make it work for her even better. One of the things that she did was she paired up with this big high roller, and her thing was that she got the most exclusive names. The list of names that she had, and part of the movie is people want her to name names. The FBI wants her to name names. And she has big A-list Hollywood actors and CEOs and all these guys willing to drop millions of dollars a night. And the one big high roller that she was really working with is played by Michael Cera. He's Player X in this movie. They don't really give his name. Mm-hmm. Now, the rumor is, the true story is that he represents Tobey Maguire.
Oh.
That in real life, Tobey Maguire was this guy who was the big fish.
See, I think it would have been awesome if you said he represented himself.
I kind of thought he was, like Michael Cera. But no, the rumor is that he is a stand-in for Tobey Maguire in real life. But part of what Molly does is, I mean, her personality is to challenge anyone who she sees as being in power, having any power over her. Mm-hmm. And so she takes over this game that somebody else was running. She challenges these people. And it's an interesting movie that has like a couple of really great performances. Jessica Chastain is really great in this. Mm-hmm. She's kind of really great in everything. Okay. And then Idris Elba is in this as Charlie Jaffe, who's her attorney. And so he's kind of there just to get exposition out of her. Like, he'll be like, so tell me about this. Why did this happen? And then that goes back to flashback mode and blah, blah, blah. He's really good at that. Idris Elba's great.
His last couple of movies, he wasn't really knocking it out of the park.
Yeah, The Dark Tower, not so much.
And the one with the down plane where...
Oh, Mountain Between Us.
Oh, that was
you're
bad.
Absolutely right. Yeah, but
Did
this...
that one make our list for worst?
It might. Stay tuned. Now, Kevin Costner's in this, as I said, as her dad, and he is kind of checked out for most of the movie. And he kind of just does his regular Kevin Costner thing that he kind of does now, ever since he became like Pa Kent and all these things where he just offers wisdom. Yeah. Offers some down-home country wisdom, you know? And so I enjoyed the movie. I really like Jessica Chastain. Now, this did feel like, I don't know if you saw last year, the movie Miss Sloane that she was in.
No.
But that movie is very similar to this movie in character. It felt like she just took the same character and just walked across the hall and made a different movie about her. The powerful girl who's smarter than everybody and outsmarts everyone. And so I enjoyed it. I really like Jessica Chastain. My big issue was the third act of this movie got really kind of hokey.
Okay.
Like, it was great drama, and that third act was just like a lot of schlocky Hollywood pseudo drama. And so that kind of bummed me out that it didn't end better. But the movie on a whole, I kind of liked it. I think I gave it 3.5. There it is, 3.5. I got it right. Yeah, it's worth a watch.
I'm actually surprised this wasn't a major release.
Yeah.
It really got a lot of publicity in the theaters, and I don't know. I thought I really thought this was just gonna go out into everywhere.
It didn't.
I know.
I'm sorry.
I mean, he had some great big names in there.
Yeah, absolutely. But you know what?
It
It's
looked
just
mainstream,
it's a heavy time of year for movies. Things are
Yeah,
just being
it
thrown
is.
at us.
Yeah.
Including this movie that we're talking about next, a movie that we carried over from last week.
Yeah, this one we couldn't do last week because we just had way too many movies. So we shuffled this one over to this week. I don't think you guys will mind. But it's made a little headline by finally toppling Star Wars.
Right.
Of course, I'm talking about Jumanji, Welcome to the Jungle. Never, not Guns N' Roses at all. Dwayne Johnson plays Spencer. He is, well, let's get way to the beginning.
Yeah.
So obviously this is a sequel. You have a board game that created a lot of problems back in the 90s. So this board game, trying to get a kid in 1997, decides, hey, kids don't play board games. I'm going to turn myself into a nice, like, 16-bit video game.
Transforms itself.
Transforms him. He gets sucked into the game, and just like the last movie, brings us to present time, where 4 kids are, again, finding the Jumanji game and getting
Serving
sucked.
hard labor.
Serving detention. It's removing staples. It's pretty funny. But they all get sucked into the game, and they're playing it exactly like you expect a video game to play, which I think is hilarious. You have all these NPC characters, non-player characters, for people who don't know what that means, interacting just like how you would in a video game. You have like these little stop screens where you're able to see what your stats are and stuff like that.
They've got the way they do their lives.
Their lives, they have
Keep
3
track of
lives,
those.
like every old video game always did. I don't know whoever came up with that number, but it's very popular. And as each time they die, a bar removes, and then they fall out of the sky like nothing ever happened.
love
Gets
that.
back into the action. I love that too. I thought that was very creative. I liked how this stuck true to how video games are played, and also the actors were really funny. You had a funny group of people that had great chemistry together. Jack Black's character was fantastic. Of course, Dwayne The Rock Johnson, he plays the action hero out of all of them, and I can't really think of too many people who could do something like that.
Yeah.
Kevin Hart plays the Fridge, who plays the sidekick that carries all the weapons.
Yeah.
And Karen Gillian plays Martha, who is like the roundhouse, the female character that has all the agility and speed and stuff.
a fighter.
Just like all the video games that you experienced back in the 90s.
That's the best. That's the best. My favorite thing about this movie, though, is that they cast everybody against type.
Yeah.
Because they take the teenage versions, and the shy, mousy girl is now the ass kicker, and you know the nerd is suddenly the huge, muscle-bound Dwayne Johnson, and the best one is the hot chick who's super vain and all about her phone and this and that.
Yeah.
Is Jack Black, a middle-aged, portly gentleman.
Well, the video game set him up too, because they always like when she chose Jack Black, it's like on the
Shelley?
bottom,
Sure.
Shelley, the curvy professor, and you find out, well, it's curvy because it's Jack Black.
Yeah, and Jack Black played that perfectly.
Yes,
He was very funny in this as the Valley Girl type.
Everybody had some really funny roles. My only complaint is some of the jokes they did get a little stale. They repeated the same kind of, it's not kind of potty humor in a way. I'm going to just say that instead of
All right, fair enough.
exactly what I was going to say. But which the first couple of times is funny, and then it starts kind of, okay, all right, we get it. That was funny the first time, but no, But besides that, I think this was nice action-paced, stayed pretty true to the original material.
Yeah.
It was funny.
Yeah, I think that it did a great job of, it's a fun comedy. It had echoes of the original. I mean, every time you hear the drums, you know something's going down.
Oh, yeah.
You've been conditioned to know something's about to change. But it's different enough that it's enjoyable on its own. Like, I'm not a huge fan of Jumanji, the first movie. It's just kind of there. It's a movie that I'll enjoy with the family, but it's not like it wasn't a movie that it took me a number of years to even see it after it came out. But this movie I still enjoyed quite a bit separate from that, and then tying it together with the universe. Another thing I really like is every time that Dwayne Johnson is cast against type, I think it's hilarious.
Yeah.
And so you take a guy who looks like him, and when he plays the nerd,
Yeah.
I think it's hilarious. And I think that's one of the things that makes his chemistry with Kevin Hart so much fun in Central Intelligence last year and in this one, is because both times Dwayne Johnson's been willing to play the nerd. And so it isn't just big muscle-bound guy, little guy. Oh, isn't that funny? Like, there's more to it because he isn't just big action star. He doesn't know that he's an action star.
And I love how Dwayne Johnson takes these roles also. It's he could easily be just your action hero, your Arnold Schwarzenegger, but he chooses things that are lighthearted, yet still perfectly suited for his body type.
Absolutely. And he's got really good comedic chops.
Yeah.
He's probably the funniest action hero we've ever had. I mean, he can actually deliver lines that aren't just cheesy one-liners.
Yeah.
You know, and he does. He has a little bit of nuance to his characters, which is cool. And for whatever reason, I don't know why, but I enjoy his dynamic with Kevin Hart. It's 2 for 2 for me on those two together. Now, I don't know if I want to see them together all the time, but I like that. And I like Karen Gilliam. I thought she was a lot of fun.
She was
a great character in this.
Her playing the girl who used to not think she's cute, but is now the cutest out of the bunch.
Yeah.
And doing that whole scene where she's trying to learn how to flirt, I thought that was
pretty
hilarious.
funny.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, who doesn't love some dance fighting? Hey, guys, you want to dance?
I was expecting more of the capoeira, but I mean, they would just throw on a cheesy 90s tune, and she would just kick butt to it. It was pretty cool.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. What did you end up giving Jumanji?
I gave it a 3.5. It's a really great movie. Your kids are going to love it.
Yeah, you picked the right score. I gave it 3.5 as well.
Hey!
It's a fun movie. Take the kids, take the family. It is.
Yeah.
It's fun, other than, a couple of little jokes here and there, but yeah, I'm in.
All right.
Well done. All right, the next movie I have for us, sir, is a movie from director Joe Wright. It is the biopic of Winston Churchill. It is Darkest Hour. Darkest Hour stars Gary Oldman as Winston Churchill. The movie takes place in the early days of World War II. Winston Churchill has been appointed Prime Minister of England, and he's kind of given a real tough situation. He has to decide whether to negotiate with Hitler or fight what appears to be a losing battle.
You're not going to give away the
ending. Stay with me. And what's interesting with this movie, especially this in 2017, is the specter of Dunkirk hangs heavily over this film. A lot of what's going on is him trying to decide how to save what army he has left that is stranded at Dunkirk. Now, we know what's happening because we just saw Dunkirk.
Yep.
And so we're kind of getting the other side of that whole situation. But that is a huge part of this movie is we're about to be overrun. They're going to kill all our boys at Dunkirk. We're not going to have an army. Hitler's going to show up on our island, and that's going to be it. We're going to lose millions of innocent lives because the Nazis are going to take over. So he's fighting this battle within his own cabinet who want to kind of force his hand to surrender, find a peace accord, and just kind of find a way to not get everybody killed and allow Hitler to take over England. And Churchill doesn't want to do that.
No.
So he's fighting that battle. He's also battling alcoholism. He's battling some serious control issues. This guy was a Howard Hughes type control issue guy. And the film is like a master performance by Gary Oldman. He is a chameleon.
He's unrecognizable.
He's unrecognizable. You can barely understand what he's saying because he's so deep into this Churchill role. It sounds like he's got a mouthful of marbles.
And the makeup is spot on. I mean, we've seen some really bad fat suit or old man faces before. This is beautiful.
It really is. I mean, there's been several Churchill films that have come out over recent years, and there's been some that I've really enjoyed. This one I think the performance is better than the movie.
Okay.
I think Oldman's performance stands out so much that it overshadows the movie because it does the film is kind of long, and it just kind of sits there with this infighting with his cabinet, and that's kind of the whole thrust of the film.
Mm-hmm.
But I could watch Gary Oldman on screen the whole time. And then you also have Lily James, who plays Elizabeth Layden. We know her from Baby Driver.
Oh, yeah.
And she's his assistant, and she's kind of the surrogate for the audience. She's the only normal person in here.
Okay.
And she just takes heaps of abuse from Churchill, and kind of feel bad for her, but she's got to try and navigate his whims and his craziness and alcoholism. And so, yeah, I think it's a film that I could definitely see in the next couple of weeks. We get Oscar nominations coming out. I'm sure that Gary Oldman's going to get nominated for this role. The movie, I think, could have been better. And so, ultimately, I gave it 3 out of 5 stars.
Curious, did he ever have the martini in this, and he point his glass in the direction of vermouth and be, that's how you make a martini? You don't actually put vermouth in? That's like my favorite Churchill
It's a little
thing.
bartender joke right here.
Little bartender joke.
No, but it's if you want to see some Gary Oldman just having fun with a role, I mean, this is a good one for you. So, Darkest Hour, 3 stars.
All right.
What do you have for us, sir?
I have all the money in the world.
Well, look at you.
No. I have the movie All the Money in the World by Ridley Scott. So, Michelle, this all takes place back in 1976. At the time, Paul Getty, he was the wealthiest man on the earth.
Yeah, J. Paul Getty.
Yeah. He was an oil man. He was heavily invested in stocks and stuff. Everybody knew the Gettys. Well, there's one thing with extremely rich people who just want to keep on getting richer. They don't want to give up their money for nothing. And that's where the problem comes in. 1973, Paul Getty's grandson gets kidnapped, and they want a $16 million ransom. Mm-hmm. And Paul Getty, he's like, you know what? If I paid this, then all my grandkids are going to get kidnapped, and I'm not going to do it. I don't have enough money for that. Yeah. And there's a great scene in here where someone is like, you have more money than anybody else in the world
ever had. The first billionaire ever.
And how much more do you need before you're comfortable? And he's just like, I need more. Yeah, just more. So the whole movie pretty much takes place with the grandson's mother, played by Michelle Williams, Gail Harris, trying to get her son without the money, which I don't know about most ransoms, but usually they don't give it up unless they get the money. And it's pretty intense. Mark Wahlberg is also in here. He plays Fletcher Chase. The only thing that Paul Getty does spend money on is a private investigator that is willing to try to find this kid and then retrieve him. But
we're not paying that ransom.
Yeah, we're not paying the ransom. It's going to be a little one-man army going out there trying to find this kid. I really like how this was set up. I love the scenery. I really felt like I was back in the 70s, but not over so where it feels like they're trying to...
Doesn't feel kitschy.
Yeah, it doesn't feel kitschy at all. It felt real, and I really appreciated that in this movie. Also the performances, and I'm going to say right now, Christopher Plummer, he did take over for a certain actor.
For Kevin Spacey.
Yeah.
I mean, this film was basically reshot over the course of 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Which is amazing.
That is extremely...
There would be so understandably, just easy to understand if this movie were a total mess.
Yeah.
I would totally forgive it if this movie just came out and it was a mess, because they tried to keep their deadline when the Kevin Spacey stuff came out, and they fired him, and they're like, we're not going to release this movie with him. Christopher Plummer, come on in. We're going to reshoot everything. And it could have been a total mess.
But really, that is probably their best decision. Even if Kevin Spacey didn't have the role. I mean, he was fantastic. I can't see Kevin Spacey doing Getty.
And unfortunately, that's kind of what I was seeing as I'm watching. I'm trying to think, like, oh, God, I wonder how, because Kevin Spacey shot all these scenes.
Yeah.
I wonder how it looked. I can't imagine anyone doing it better than Christopher Plummer. He played cold and calculating. He played that wicked king who is paranoid of everybody, thinks everyone's coming after him and his money, and he's just hoarding it all. He played it perfect.
And that's what I think he would have got that Kevin Spacey wouldn't have. You wouldn't have gotten that part of him where you feel like, yeah, he's not being evil. he actually believes he doesn't have the money to spend.
Yeah.
Kevin
I don't have the time to
Spacey,
spare.
he's more swarmy. You would look at him and you're like, no, he doesn't really believe that. He's just saying that. Where Christopher Plummer, you actually felt his side of the story a little bit, whether you agree with it or not. Of course, no one does.
He's
but,
not necessarily a family man. I mean, he chooses art and artifacts over people,
Yeah.
including family.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. I think this film, like you said, is filled with some great performances.
Yeah.
I love Michelle Williams in this. I think she's just awesome, and I thought she was great in this as the mother who just wants her son back.
Yeah.
She doesn't understand why her ex-father-in-law won't help get his grandson back. Her husband's a destitute bum, and she feels lost, and like no one is willing to help her. Like Mark Wahlberg in this movie.
And that's so weird. Yeah.
He was really good in this movie.
I think he does a lot better when he's not trying to be funny.
Absolutely.
And he did step back. I mean, he is that hard-nosed cop still, but it wasn't as extreme as what he usually tries doing in all his other detective
I'll
movies.
tell you who else I kind of liked in this movie. It was kind of an interesting thing was Romain Duris, who played Cinquanta.
Yeah, Chiquanta.
Who was the guy who kind of originally kidnapped the grandson, and then kind of his character evolved, and he started to feel sympathy for the kid, and he started to see different sides of this situation, and you see that he was just working for somebody else, and suddenly start to kind of feel sympathetic for this guy.
Exactly.
I, as an audience member, I'm getting Stockholm syndrome. I'm like, he's not a bad guy. Come on.
He's totally a bad guy, though. He tells you, right at the beginning, he's a bad guy. He does bad things. This is how he makes money.
But he's a kidnapper with a heart of gold.
I think he just gets an attachment, and you get to watch that relationship grow, which I was not expecting that in this movie. I thought it was going to be just a hardcore biopic, but you get the emotion that every single character is feeding off. Even Mark Wahlberg was able to do a little bit of that, and I was really proud of the boy.
And the kid, Charlie Plummer, was great as Paul Getty III. I thought he was really good. And I mean, man,
and he did some growing too.
There's some ruthless moments in this movie. They torture this kid.
Oh yeah.
There's some hard moments. This movie really excels. I mean, it builds this high tension, this high drama, and it does a great job of going from the kidnapping side to the study of who Getty was and the psychological study of what is this guy's deal? How can he be this cold and ruthless? And so it wasn't just a thriller.
Yeah.
We got to get the kid back, and the money drop isn't going to work or whatever. You're also like, but wait a minute. This guy has all the money in the world.
It's
Why
literally
is he like this? Why is he this way?
Yeah.
I thought it was great.
And he does go through a little thing of how he got his money and stuff like that. And through Mr. Plummer's performance, I did understand him a little bit. Yeah, he's really wrong, but I understand where he's coming from a little bit. I really don't think Kevin Spacey could have done that. I thought his performance was spot on. I actually think his performance overshadowed a lot of everybody else's, and that was my only complaint.
I mean, Christopher Plummer's a great actor.
They lucked out.
He's been a great actor for a long time.
Yeah.
There's been jokes now that you just replace him in every Kevin Spacey movie. You go back retroactively, just put Christopher Plummer in it.
I don't think that would work in American Beauty.
Why not?
I don't know.
Come on, let's do it. The way CGI is these days, we put Christopher Plummer in everything. I can't wait to see him play Kaiser Soze.
Uh-huh.
He'd be great as that.
I could see him do that.
Yeah, absolutely. What did you end up giving all the money in the world?
I gave it a 4.
Yeah.
And I'm curious if Ridley Scott's going to have an extended version, because every time he makes a movie, he also has an extended version coming out.
I got a feeling like everything that was shot ended up in this movie. I got a feeling anything that was cut from this movie is going to stay cut. I don't think that's going to be released.
I don't know if they're going to make that completely dark, like it never happened, or if they're proud of the fact that they were able to do something like that.
I think they're proud of it, but I don't think you're going to see any of the unused footage. I think there's a reason they spent a lot of money to redo this movie. It's kind of unheard of to do that in a...
Oh, yeah.
I mean, most movies would say, okay, we're pushing back our release date 9 months. We're going to reshoot. It happens all the time with Star Wars movies. They push back the release dates because we have 3 weeks of reshoots. They're like, we're going to reshoot a movie with a new lead.
Yeah.
Now, but we're still going to hit that timeline we had. It's ridiculous. I agree. I give it 4 stars, by the way.
Nice.
I thought it was great. I think it's one of the better movies to see in theaters right now. In a time full of really good movies right now. This is a really good one. It's a really good one.
Have you seen Star Wars?
The Star Wars. Yeah, I saw it back in 77.
All right, cool.
Good movie.
Yeah,
Good movie. They should make some more of those. Chewbacca. All right, let's take a look. A look back real quick. Mike, I gave you a thing. I said, we're going to do a throwback.
Yeah.
Do you have a movie that has, like, takes place in a jungle? Maybe has, like, a kid being kidnapped or something, some child grabbing.
Yeah.
Anything that kind of falls in with all of this?
Uh-huh.
And you responded with?
Oh, I had one other, but eventually we went with Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom because there is a kidnapping. Winnie gets kidnapped.
Some kids? Oh, and lots of kids are kidnapped in this movie.
Yeah.
Villages full of kids.
It is.
Yes, the sequel to Raiders of the Lost Ark. But for me, this took me a long time as a kid to figure out. This was the first prequel that I remember, and I didn't quite understand that there were things such as a prequel, that this took place before Raiders. Chronologically, I don't get it. Why isn't Short Round in Raiders then? Like, what's going on? Confusing. But it is the adventures of Indiana Jones, and of course he has to have a new lady with him. Kate Capshaw as Willie Scott is in this, and you also have Short Round, his young accomplice Dr. Jones, going off into the jungles of India and meeting up with what's his name?
Kalima Shatiti.
Ripping hearts out and creating zombies. Drink some blood. I'll tell you what, this movie, more than any movie as a kid, freaked me out for years from the dinner scene. Eating monkey brains?
Yep.
Nope. That big snake? Nope.
Yep.
Nope. That freaked me out like nothing else.
This movie was horrifying.
Yeah.
But when you look back at it, I mean, when I was a kid, loved it. I still love it. But this is actually probably one of the technically worse made movies. You look in certain scenes and you could see that they're hiding a rock with like a painted picture. And Winnie's performance
is annoying.
She is absolutely terrible in this
Willie
movie.
To fall into a lava pit all the time.
But Harrison Ford being as awesome as he is, and the writing being as great as it is, and also having another kid in there.
Two notes about this movie. First, this was one of the first PG-13 movies ever.
Yeah.
Created PG-13 kind of with this movie. And because of that, when I saw this movie in theaters the first time as a child, I was less than 13 in 1984, my grandma pulled me out during the first heart-ripping scene, said, we're not watching this, took me across the hall to go see Bambi. And I had to sit and watch Bambi.
Did you cry?
No, I was mad. I'm like, watching Indiana Jones, man.
Yeah, all my friends are watching this.
And here we go. Let's go across the hall, watch this crappy Disney movie that I've already seen before. I was very mad. Very mad.
I would have been too.
Yeah. For a long time, I did not like this movie, but I do now. I love it a lot. All right.
It's endearing.
Let's take a quick look ahead at what is going to be coming out the weekend of January 12th. We have 3 movies. The first one is the new Liam Neeson movie. Same movie as before. It's called The Commuter this time. He's got a special set of skills or something. I don't even care. The next movie is Paddington 2. Did you see the first Paddington movie?
No, you took that one.
I like that movie a lot.
Okay.
I like that movie a lot.
Yeah.
I remember giving it 4 stars. First Paddington movie.
I was surprised.
I'd recommend it. It's a lot of fun. And then last but not least, a movie that looks kind of interesting to me, Proud Mary, Taraji P. Henson in like a 1970s Foxy Brown type role.
Yeah, that's what I compare it to, and I'm not really liking that.
Well, we'll see. That's all coming out January 12th. Before we leave you, we want to thank our sponsor, Marcus Theaters. Thank you for sponsoring us. The Palace is the place we go to see our films. We do thank you. If you want to find more from us, you can find us on Facebook or Twitter by searching Real Reviews TV, at Real Reviews TV. You can also find... well, Mike, this is episode 193. You can find all these episodes if you go to KSUN or sunpraymediacenter.com. There's an on-demand player with all of those. Or you can find us on YouTube by searching Real Reviews KSUN. Next week, we're going to be talking about The Post. We're going to be talking about Insidious 4. And we might be looking back on the year of 2017.
Again?
And talking about movies that we liked or didn't like.
There we go.
We'll see. But all that's coming next week, and until that time, I'm Jameson.
I'm Mike Roth.
Thanks for watching.